Eddie, once we get into the show, I'm going to take care of a technical issue. I'm going to have to make a phone call from right out here regarding our GoDaddy account.
Do we have anybody call on top of the hour today?
Scott.
Okay, look
As
for
soon
a
as
call.
he gets on first.
Yeah, as soon as he
Here we
gets
go.
on.
3.
All right, listeners, that's right. Mustang Matters, created by and hosted by none other country western star Lacy J Dalton. She's on set with us, along with Shannon Windle, Wild Horse Protection Fund for Hidden Valley, and also Cindy Hartzell has joined us, as well as our co-host who kicks off every Mustang Matters with a Lakota prayer and some Native American flute music. That's JoAnn Spotted Bear.
Oh, but Doc Yappy, this morning we're gonna change up a little bit. We're gonna say a special prayer for the teacher who was killed on Monday. And so at this time, I'm gonna blow this flute in 4 separate directions. And then I'm gonna sing a peyote song and the Lakota way of life. And we're gonna pray for those who have lost a loved one. Ise manitowa hio wana hene yo. Ise manitowa hio wana hene yo. Ise manitowa hio wana hene yo. Ise manitowa hio wana hiana hene yo. Ise manitowa hio wana hene yo. Ise manitowa hio wana hene yo. Ise manitowa hio wana hiana hene yo. Isi manitowa hio wana hene yo. Isi manitowa hio wana hene yo. Isi manitowa hio wana hiana hene yo. Isi manitowa hio wana hene yo. Isi manitowa hio wana hene yo. Isi manitowa hio wana hiana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hiana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hiana hene yo. Yana hawe yo hio wana hene yo. Yana hawe yo hio wana hene yo. Yana hawe yo, hio wana hiana hene yo. Yana hawe yo, hio wana hene yo. Yana hawe yo, hio wana hene yo. Yana hawe yo, hio wana hiana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hene yo. Jesus itowa hio wana hiana.
Wow, JoAnn Spotted Bear, that was absolutely beautiful, and we hope the family members, friends, and associates of that fallen Marine, that school teacher, really take that to heart. I know all of us on the panel here at Mustang Matters certainly do. Thanks again for leading us in prayer. Thanks for the song, and thanks for the beautiful American Indian flute. I tell you what, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'll start with you, Lacy. Lacy J Dalton, listeners, the creator of Mustang Matters. Her Let 'em Run Foundation done so much for our American heritage, the wild horses and burros nationwide. Absolutely amazing. Isn't JoAnn phenomenal?
We're so happy to have JoAnn here to represent all the Native peoples in America and Canada and all over the world. We are so grateful to have a representative of the Teach-One Council and the grandmothers, the Lakota grandmothers and all the grandmothers. It's a great honor for us here.
You know, as a matter of fact, Lacy, that's a perfect segue. Listeners, right now you're being heard on Renegade Radio here in the great state of Nevada, as well as our flagship 99.1 FM Talk, a Fox News affiliate, plus Native Voice One radio stations, totally nationwide, coast to coast, border to border, and like JoAnn Spotted Bear likes to say,
Res to res.
All right, you know what, we do have a couple of special guests that'll be calling in, okay? And I'll tell you what, I'll go to you, Cindy. Are they on the line now, or do you know?
I believe we do. I believe we have Scott Beckstead, who is a senior Oregon director for the Humane Society of the United States, who lives in Sutherland, Oregon, on the line, wanting to talk about some of the wild horse shootings that are going on around.
Wow. Okay, well, Scott, welcome to Mustang Matters, our friend.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
You know, let's do this. One thing Lacy J always does with every guest, and whether it's Cindy's guest, Shannon's guest, or JoAnn's guest, we always like you to personalize the show for us. Where were you born, educated, and what led you to be dedicating so much of your life to these wild horses?
Well, thank you. I really enjoy telling my story, so I'm more than happy to fill you in on sort of where I'm coming from and who I am. I was born and raised on a working ranch in Southern California. I'm sorry, Southern California. I've got California on the brain. I've been dealing with California stuff. A working ranch in Southern Idaho. Born and raised in Twin Falls, which is in the Magic Valley part of Southern Idaho. Was raised around cattle and was raised around horses my entire life. My parents tell me that I knew how to ride before I knew how to walk.
Wow.
And I've always felt a passion for horses, both wild and domestic. I've always been around, and so I have a lifelong affinity for these animals, and it's something that I feel very passionately about in terms of protecting horses, both wild and domestic. So right now I'm the Senior Oregon Director for the Humane Society of the United States. So I work for HSUS on all sorts of animal issues, from wildlife to farm animals to companion animals. But as a lifelong horseman, I have put horses sort of at the top of my list of priorities, and
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, are you there, Scott?
well,
Okay, good. You
Yeah,
broke up.
okay.
You broke up just a moment. So if you happen to be on a cell phone or if you're moving around there, just stay stationary for us for the rest of the interview, okay?
Either that, add
You got it.
tinfoil, you'll be all right.
Well, now we don't want to do it like you do it on the reservation, JoAnn. Okay? Tinfoil is not the cure-all for all communication. Okay, we might have to send Scott one of your famous smoke signals, JoAnn Spotted Bear. Okay, Cindy, I tell you what, Scott, very impressive resume, my friend. Very, very impressive resume.
well, thank you, and it was a pleasure to meet Cindy at the International Equine Conference in Kentucky a couple of weeks ago. I got to know her and got acquainted with her amazing work there with the wild horses in Nevada, so it's a real pleasure for me to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us, Scott. I likewise enjoyed meeting you and getting to know a lot of the things that you do. We have a lot in common. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the reward that's been offered for the Oregon horses. And last night we talked, and I was able to tell you a little bit about the ones who were actually shot in Nevada too. And so let's start with what's going on in Oregon and what the Humane Society is able to do for them, and we'll build from there.
Sure. So the Humane Society of the United States is offering a reward of up to $5,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for killing 6 wild horses in Central Oregon over the past couple weeks. This is an absolutely heartbreaking case, and it comes after a similar shooting of 6 wild horses in the spring of 2011 in the same area. That's a crime that remains unsolved. To its credit, the United States Forest Service, which has jurisdiction of the lands where these wild horses were shot and killed, is very interested and very motivated to find the individual or individuals who is perpetrating these terrible acts of cruelty. So the Humane Society of the United States offers a reward program for animal cruelty cases that are especially egregious, given the number of animals that that were shot and killed, as well as the fact that that really these crimes remain unsolved. It is very much a suitable sort of situation for our cruelty reward program. So we've contacted the U.S. Forest Service as well as the Cribb County Attorney's Office, who also has jurisdiction in the case, and informed them of our reward program. They welcomed the reward, and so yesterday we announced that we would be offering a reward again of up to $5,000 to catch these perpetrators.
Boy, Scott, that's wonderful, and we have had similar things down here. We've had a number of horses, one of which they actually tried to blame on the Let 'Em Run Foundation. They said a horse was starved to death, but it was just a few hundred yards down the road from a horse that had been shot through the eye. And we couldn't tell how this horse died because by the time it was found, its eyes had been pecked out by the birds. But there is somebody in our area who I am going to ask right now that Spirit intervene and reveal to us the name and the identity of the person who loves to shoot horses here through the eye with bows and arrows and with guns. We're having a little rash of that ourselves, Scott, and I know that there is a promise, and Spirit will actually reveal who this is. So whoever you are out there, you better get ready, because we're coming for you.
Amen.
Amen. I'm a duck yuppie, and it wasn't me either.
Scott, I tell you what, that was just Lacy J Dalton, who created Mustang Matters and also is the founder of the Let 'Em Run Foundation. So I know you work with like Cindy, and I know you met her and Shannon Windle of the Hidden Valley Wild Horse Protection Fund in Kentucky. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to having you be a regular periodic call-in to Mustang Matters, because it's my personal opinion, Lacy, and you said it best, we all have to work together. I don't care if it's Let 'Em Run, I don't care if it's Hidden Valley, I don't care if it's Wynema Ranch Wild Horse Sanctuary. Everybody needs to pitch in, and everybody is looking forward to the accomplishment of the very same goal.
You know, Eddie, I've noticed a great pulling together here in Nevada of the horse groups. Years ago, they were all very contentious. Nobody could ever get along. But it's now there are at least 11 groups in the Alliance of Wild Horse Advocates, and we all are pulling together to make sure that our wild horses, you know, we were completely overwhelmed by the Department of Agriculture having rounded up so many horses. Hidden Valley has absorbed, I believe, 176, 182. Oh, more. Oh, since the
Did you
last
see
time.
that frown on her face when she said 100? Because you know why? It's almost like you have to nurse and nurse every single solitary one of them. Scott, how about your groups in where you're at now, Oregon? Are they pulling together as well?
Well, yes. There's a very good group in Central Oregon called the Central Oregon Wild Horse Coalition, a group that advocates for the wild horse herd there in the Central Oregon region, especially in the Ochoco Mountains and the Ochoco National Forest, the eastern portion of that, also known as the Big Prairie Summit Range, is where these horses lived and were killed. The Central Oregon Wild Horse Coalition offered a reward back in 2011 for the horse shootings that occurred then, and they have stepped up again to offer an additional $2,000 for these 6 horses. So the total amount being offered is at least $7,000, and there's at least some discussion that additional money may be offered. So there is a substantial amount of money out there available for anyone who might have information that actually ends up breaking the case. So we're trying to get the word out. We issued a press release yesterday to alert the media. I've done a number of interviews with the media, sort of talking about the reward program and this case in particular. So we're very hopeful. We're hopeful that someone out there is going to hear about the reward and decide that they're going to do the right thing and step up with information that will eventually lead to the perpetrators being apprehended.
That's awesome, Scott. This is Shannon Windle from Hidden Valley. It's so good for you to call in. It's wonderful to hear from you and all the great news of that you've been able to put this reward out. I feel confident that good people will listen. They'll detect something that somebody says somewhere along the line. With our horses, the 2 horses that were killed here, there is a reward out. I believe it still stands at $1,500. Anybody here with information leading to the conviction of anybody involved with the shooting of these horses can call Secret Witness here at 775-322-4900. Your information will be kept confidential. Anything you know, give us a call. Give them a call. Call Secret Witness, 775-322-4900. Let's get these guys.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Now, Scott, if you don't mind, we're going to go to a Lakota on set with us right now, JoAnn Spotted Bear. JoAnn?
Scott, I'd like a reward for Sue Wallace.
Come on now, come on.
Yeah, she wrote a resolution and gave it to National Congress for American Indians and that's slaughtering horses too. So I was wondering what your input was on that.
Well, I believe that Sue Wallace's reward is on its way in the form of a federal law that will eventually shut down the slaughter of horses for human consumption and shut down her tired rhetoric in support of killing and butchering our equine companions. I mean, look, 80% of Americans stand strongly in support of protecting our horses from slaughter. So Sue Wallace is fighting against the current of public opinion. She's fighting against American history. She's fighting against the overwhelming force of American culture. And, you know, she can talk till she's blue in her little face about the need to slaughter our equine friends. But, she's just wrong about it. She's wrong about how people feel about it. And so I strongly believe in the concept of what comes around goes around, and I believe that our Congress and our national leaders are going to eventually do the right thing and take a stand for horses. And by the way, I would note that the news today is that 8 more members of Congress have signed up as co-sponsors.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, I just had a friend that go back to Washington. She was lobbying for the Humane Society of the United States, and she left me a message. And I don't know about the veracity of this, but maybe you do. Is it true that 250,000 of our beautiful domestic horses went to that inhumane slaughter in Canada and Mexico last year? Is that true? She was not sure. She said that's what she heard in Washington, and she was not. I had heard 178,000.
And I heard around 160,000.
Well, but any is too many.
If it's one, it's too many, and it's horrendous to me that in spite of overwhelming public opinion in opposition to horse slaughter, that we still have groups like the American Quarter Horse Association and others, happily supporting slaughter and continuing to promote irresponsible breeding practices. 70% of the horses that are going across our borders to be slaughtered are American quarter horses. And to me, the quarter horse owners of America need to rise up against their group and demand that they stop promoting slaughter as a quick and dirty way to dispose of unwanted animals. It's just reprehensible. And so again, whether it's 160,000, 250,000, whatever that number is, it's too many. And there's a lot that the people who truly love horses can do to shut it down.
It is, and I really think that's the next. Well, first we have to pass the SAFE Act. We've got to get that thing passed. And actually, Humane Society of the United States just adopted a public service announcement that I made, which talks about the captive bolt and how we need to pass the SAFE Act. If you'd like a copy of it, please get in touch. Eddie can send it to you immediately.
As a matter of fact, let me give Scott that information. Right now, Scott, I think that would be wonderful if you do that. If you would do that, we will certainly send you a copy of that PSA that's going worldwide right now to get support to save our American heritage. And here's how you get a hold of us. Just send it to nevadamatters@gmail.com. Again, that's nevadamatters@gmail.com. And then, Scott, we're going to keep in contact with you. Lacey?
Yeah, Scott, and it is also, thank you, Eddie, and it's also my understanding that right now, it's the domestic horses that are really being, just 2 and 3 year old perfectly healthy horses. They're just, horse mills, quarter horse mills. They're irresponsible breeders who won't place the horses that they don't want to keep. The second worst offenders are the racing industry, and the third worst offenders are the walking horse industry. And you know what? This is just wrong, and this needs to stop. And hello, if you know somebody who's doing it, I think we need to just absolutely confront them and say, you have any idea what kind of inhumane and hideous end you are sending these good horses, these young, beautiful horses to? They might not have perfect ears. Maybe they don't have that perfect butt. But they're great horses, and you don't need to be breeding that much.
There's really no such thing as perfect anyway, right, Lacy?
As far as I know, I haven't.
Every horse is perfect in just its own way. Hey, Scott, can you tell us how people can contact the Humane Society in regards to any information about the 6 horses in Oregon before we wrap it up?
Yeah, absolutely, Cindy. Actually, the best way to report information is by contacting the agencies that are in charge of the investigation. So anyone with information about the case, and let me just real quickly, the Forest Service values any information, no matter how small, whether it's you happen to pass a vehicle of a certain description in that area within 24 hours of the shooting. I mean, no piece of information is too small, so they're really encouraging people to speak up. The number for the U.S. Forest Service is 541-383-5798. Number again, 541-383-5798. That's the number to Captain Dan Smith at the U.S. Forest Service, or the Cook County Sheriff's Office, 541-447-6398. Again, 541-447-6398. Call those numbers if you have a tip that you can provide, and perhaps collect a reward up to $7,000.
You know, Scott, we want to thank you again for being a part of Mustang Matters. We want to thank you for this call. We look forward to your call. Remember, Mustang Matters listeners, we are heard each and every week on Native Voice One radio stations all across this nation, coast to coast, border to border, and JoAnn?
Reservation to reservation.
You better believe it. All right. Now, I tell you what, Scott, again, thanks for the call. Please know that we're going to be here to help you in any type of information you'd like to get out to the public. Listeners, that was Scott. He got a hold of us by simply calling 855-790-8255. You can do the very same thing. You can also text us at 775-384-4444. You know, Lacy, you're going to love this. We have a news show now that's a national news show. It's called the AM News, which is a dual meaning. It stands for America Matters, and it also stands for morning. So it's the AM News show, and this gentleman who we're about to pull up now called in the other day, and Dennis Romeo, who's putting together that Mustangs, if you will, fundraiser next year.
What a great title.
When
did that happen?
When did that happen?
That's fabulous.
All right, so
I don't know whose idea that was.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Well, anyway, this gentleman, who is a world-renowned entertainer such as yourself, called into the news show. Dennis and I put him on the spot, and he goes, well, by God, Eddie, I'll do it. So without further ado, let's go right now to Buck Helton. Buck, welcome to Mustang Matters, my friend.
Okay. Hello, Eddie. How y'all are? Do me a favor and reach across the table and give Lacy a good smooching for me.
A good smooching. Okay, I love that. I love that. Hey, Buck, I tell you what, and thank you for checking your calendar and saying that you'll certainly be here to help support the American heritage, the wild horses and burros. And I tell you what, the first time I met you, Lacy, Buck, was when Lacy was up at Piper's Opera House, and you and him were raising money for, if you will, raising money for the wild horses with the Wild Horse Preservation League.
Well, you know what? This has become a really great thing that we're doing every year, and I think the fact that we're doing a couple of them every year is really great.
Yeah, you better believe it. Hey, Buck, would you do me one big favor since you kind enough to call us in right now? Because this is my favorite. Lacy didn't get to hear it the other morning on the national news, and I know it doesn't take that long. Will you please, a cappella right now, that beautiful, beautiful song where your mother gave you that advice? Would you do that for me, Buck Helton?
Oh, sure, we can do that
All
for
right,
you.
let's do it with that.
Again, this is why you have to be real careful what you say to your kids, because they pay attention even when you think they ain't. And that's how I wound up starting off life as an unwanted child, and I'm wanted in 7 states. But a bit of advice for you. When I was just a little boy, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be handsome? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. No.
Oh, Buck, I absolutely love that. Buck Helton, where are you going to be in the immediate future? Let's give you a shameless plug since you were kind enough to call Mustang Matters, and we've got to go to our next caller. Where's Buck Helton going to be playing in the immediate future?
Well, Sunday, I'm going to be out at the Red Steagall Chuck Wagon Gathering in the Fort Worth Stockyard. So I'll be playing on the steps of the Livestock Exchange Building in 2:30. And feel free to come on out. And Lacy, we need to get together with Lance and start rounding up politicians, because I tell you what, out there with the BLM and the rest of this bunch, you got more horses rear-ends than you have horses.
Well said, well said.
Well said. Buck Helton, thanks for the call. We really do mean that, my friend. That was Buck Helton, listeners. He called 855-790-8255. What a great Mustang Matters today that we have. Remember, call, get in line. Let's go to someone that I want to pay tribute to right now. Single-handedly, this lady absolutely saved, and if my memory serves me correct, it's well over 40-some horses. Okay, and that's Cindy Lee. Cindy, where are you calling in from?
Denver, Colorado. You have a strong fighting voice out here in Colorado for the wild Mustangs, the wild horses, and I'm just so proud to be a part of your team, and just wanted to thank you for all the wonderful awareness that you're doing for the horses and everybody.
Cindy, thank you so much for calling in. How are you doing?
I'm good. You guys are awesome. I always think of you when I go and teach all the Boys and Girls Clubs all over the state to teach them how to respect the wild horses and the horses and help protect them in the future. And I have raved about you guys to them, and they're very enamored by how everything is really pulling together. And I said, oh, there's a big, big team for everybody to help them.
Wow.
Boy, Cindy, how can we get you out here to talk to our boys and girls?
You just tell me where to go and I'll be there.
We love that. Cindy, I tell you what, I really mean this. I want to give you this opportunity right now. I want to give you this opportunity to tell our listeners nationwide how they actually get a hold of you and your organization because of everything you're doing.
Well, my name is Cindy Lee, and I have the Wags and Menace Make a Difference Foundation in Denver, Colorado. And you can go to wagsandmenace.org, and I'm also on Facebook. And I cover 1,000 miles, and I've helped save a lot of wild Mustangs, off-track betting racehorses that have gone to slaughter. I've saved them, as well as many other domestic horse, which you were speaking about earlier, that does not deserve to go to slaughter just because their blaze is crooked and such.
Wow, Cindy Lee, I've got to share with you. Thank you so much for calling. It is so very important that people get a hold of Cindy Lee right there in Denver, Colorado, our very last caller on Mustang Matters. Listeners, thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for tuning in to Mustang Matters. For those of you who are listening on all the radio stations nationwide, you keep your seats right after this word from our wonderful sponsor. We will be right back.
You didn't say Fox, but